welcome into the cast. This is our 10th episode. And this evening, we've got Gene Campbell with us, founder and president of Patriot Outfitters. Welcome, Gene.
Appreciate it, Matt. It's cool to be on the opposite side this time. Last time we met, roles were reversed, so this is super cool.
Oh, no, this is awesome. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate your time. I love what you're doing with True Patriot Outfitters. For people that are tuning in, True Patriot Outfitters, Gene is the founder and president there. Each year, CKFC chooses a charity or an organization that we work with. And this year we've selected Gene and True Patriot Outfitters for everything that they're doing. And we'll get into that in the show. But Gene, let's just go ahead and do an introduction. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of who you are and what you do in the community, both for fishing and then as far as the True Patriot Outfitters.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I am a former IT bum and finally had the opportunity to jump full in on chasing the living, if you will, of tournament angling. And it was, I guess, 2 years ago. Yeah, almost 2 full years ago. We decided, we saw the writing on the wall and everything kind of lined up just right. We left the bass boat world behind and jumped all in on the kayak side of things, and have not looked back since, man. So that's literally 50% of my job is fishing right now, and the other piece is, of course, running the True Patriot Outfitters. But, close second with that is also maintaining. I'm a program manager for the Romans Warrior Foundation and the vice president of their board. And so I work closely with Brian Romans with that. We have many facets. That's the national nonprofit that brings all sorts of healing across between our Global War on Terror's Wall of Remembrance. The Stop 22 tour is a big part of us. That's veteran combat and non-combat veterans that are national recording artists creating music by veterans for veterans. Pretty powerful stuff going through there. A lot of entities, and of course, then I manage the Warrior Field Ops division for RWF, which is outdoor events, very similar to what TPO does. So that's pretty much what I do now, 100%. It's thankfully for me and for our mission, I have a very successful wife and a very supportive wife who allows her 50-year-old, newly found son to to chase this dream and try to do what put this thing on the map somewhere to make a living, doing it. So it's a little tricky, but it's a, like she says, she takes care of the normal bank, I take care of the karma bank, and that's that's our teamwork there. That's how we get her done. So
that's cool. That's cool. So are you from Colorado originally, or?
So I'm technically what they used to call a transplant native. I was actually born in Minnesota, but left as a very young kid. Moved all over the U.S., to be honest with you. But I moved to Colorado in 1990, and I think after 20 years you get to call yourself a transplant native, And so I was out here for many, many years. Then in a previous life, my kid's mother and my two kids, we moved to Minnesota to kind of focus more on the kids. Things were starting to speed up here in Colorado, expenses and, just fast lane. Things were starting to pick up in the 2000s. It was nothing what Colorado used to be like in the 1990s. So I went to Minnesota and spent 10 years. And that's, to be honest with you, that's where this whole addiction, started for the tournament angling. I always loved fishing since I was a kid, any kind of fishing. It didn't matter. Literally my brother and I used to go club freaking carp that would come over the spillway dam. We'd take rocks out there and club them and then take them home to mom because she knew actually how to cook those things. I'm telling you, dude, I got some banjos in my family tree.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, and it was, bass had always, stuck with me. And I started, before I left Colorado, I started going after smallies and some rock bass, but I didn't have a boat, at the time. I didn't really have, I had a boat, but it was too big of a boat to go put on ponds and stuff. It was a horse-tooth boat. And when I got to Minnesota, man, that's when it's like everywhere I turned, there was a lake and there was bass and there were pike. And yeah, it was just on, from that point on. And First tournament I ever got in was with my son, and I just knew at the end of that's like, this is it.
Yeah.
I've always, I was always, I coached for 18 years. I coached football, hockey, and track. I've always had I played sports as a kid. I'm a competitor. It's just in my nature. I love to compete. And so when you could combine the outdoors and that, what I didn't realize, in all honesty, was what fishing was doing for me here, though. Things weren't so great at home, on that front. And I can see it now clearly. I look back on it and I go, holy Moses, that's what it was. Everything made more sense when I was on the water. When I got out there, things calmed down. I didn't hear the voices anymore. Clarity took place. I could focus on things, and it just all came together. So yeah, I found myself thoroughly addicted. As much as I could be on the water, I would be on the water, and take my kids with me. It was perfect. I was like, yep, let's go.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
that's like a perfect segue into True Patriot Outfitters. We were talking on your show about this. I think I remember saying, that drive out to the lake even. So
yeah,
I'm actually starting like a week of leave right now from work, and
that's awesome.
it's cool. I had my last long night last night working, but it's cool to see, like, I know tomorrow morning I'm going to get up. I got everything packed for our tournament in Trinidad. So once I get in the truck, I know that my mind is just going to be just going to, level out. And there's going to be stressful times. I'm going to lose fish and all that. And I'm super competitive as well. I think that's a trait that a lot of people have that are doing this. But there's something about being on the water. And for me, it keeps growing because originally it was like, okay, getting on the water is relaxing or calms me down or whatever it is. Or I just, spend more time thinking when I'm on the water.
Yeah.
But now it's like, in Colorado, we're so lucky, not with just CKAFC, but everybody that's really in the kayak community out here is great. I know the CKB guys like Matt Flanagan. I was so happy that he got a
right?
W,
Hell yeah.
So happy for that guy. See him out at, all of our tournaments, and then we saw him out at the All-American as well. So congrats to Matt if he's watching, but
Matt does so much, man. He's one of the good people. I run into a lot of different types of folks around the country everywhere I go, but they broke the mold after that dude. He is just, he'd give you the shirt off his back if he was, in the middle of a freezing, rainstorm. It wouldn't matter. He'd do what he had to do for his buddies, for his friends, and probably for a stranger too. He'd do that. So yeah, man, seeing him get that and just earn that win, dude. He thought he lost it. That 20 he lost, he thought it was over, and it was like, oh goodness.
Yeah, I saw his video. I was like, oh my gosh. How you mentally come back from that is a testament in its own self, So
no
congrats
kidding.
to him. But yeah, what I was getting at is it's now evolved for me even into the community that we've got here as part of like what relaxes me. Guys are gonna chill out by the campfire, just hang out and relax, and that's part of it too. So
it's the whole experience. Yeah
exactly. So when did you find a way to blend the outdoors with what you're doing with first was Romans but now with True Patriot Outfitters? Like how did that kind of come to be?
It was seizing opportunities when I saw them and acting on, for the first time in a long time, just acting on what was in here and not so much here. The only way that's possible is to have an amazing support system behind you, and that is exactly what I have. My wife Julie has been, just a rock, a pillar. In way more ways than the obvious. It's always been on her ability to know the right things to say to me at times, when it comes to this. So I was still in the bass boat world and trying to piece together how is this going to work, watching the prices continue to go up around every corner. And watching Bass and MLF and everybody else making these moves that was great for them and horrible for the angler, just making it more and more expensive. People in our sport always use the top 1% as the gauge. When you tell somebody you want to be, a professional angler, they immediately think, dude, you ain't going to be able to compete with no G-Man or no KVD or no. That's right. Most people can't. But there are so many people out there making a living doing that you've never even heard of.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. I mean, you don't have to make, 6 digits a year. I mean, bro, if you fish for a living and you can pay your bills, dude,
that's good life.
That's what I'm saying. I don't care if I never, had a single follower or sponsor out there, if I could do that. So anyway, I came from a more business background. And so I was applying the business aspect of this, but at any rate, I knew I needed to have something more than just chasing checks and chasing fish. When I retired and gave up on coaching so I could go full time with this, it left a hole. I'm a former first responder with the Larimer County Dive Rescue Team. That volunteer time was some of the best internal time, and it was very difficult work. It was not easy to see the things we had to see and do what we had to do there, but so fulfilling internally to know we filled a section for our community, and what they needed. So in the absence of those, there was these holes sitting in here. It's like, I need to do something, man. It's got to be more than just me trying to outfish, Joe Blow over there.
Yeah.
So I started reaching out to nonprofits in the ways of doing promotions for them, that allow me to use some of my, hey, I'm Gene, buy my fishing tackle. Instead of doing that, I thought, what if we said, hey, have you guys heard about so-and-so, organization over here, and look at the work that they're doing out there? Well, one thing led to another. Warrior Bonfire Program invited me to Vienna, Missouri, private lake, private lodge, family. One gentleman there donated the entire thing. Warrior Bonfire Program does retreats around the country. They take 6 Purple Heart recipient combat vets and have just a slew of activities that involve basically healing and working together and brotherhood and sisterhood, camaraderie, and just connecting them and giving them experiences that they may have never been able to experience, ever. Well, they asked me to bring my boat, bring my gear, and come out and spend, 4 or 5 days with these warriors and share my bass fishing, experience with them. And they said, would you be up for that? I'm like, are you kidding me? So I canceled a tournament that I had that would have been at Lake of the Ozarks. And I'm like, I just got to go about 45 minutes further to the east to get to Vienna. So we canceled that event, and I scheduled that in and drove there. 14 hours to get there, show up that evening, and literally after the time spent there, it changed everything. It altered my entire perspective on what we were doing, how we were doing it, and the importance. The importance that, by literally sharing something that's so second nature to me, when I saw what it could do, the healing powers, the time, and it's the alternative as opposed to throwing a bag of opioids, down the way, or in hearing the stories, being allowed to be in that space and hear their stories and hear the things they deal with on a day-to-day basis. I will never understand, Matt, I would never be able to say that I understand what your day looks like as an active military and doing what you do, because I've never done it, bro. I mean, good Lord, you found the Green Berets boring, so you decided to go on to this. I mean, you guys, doing what you guys do, there's no way I'll truly understand it, but man, I certainly can be, in awe of it and respect the ever living, bejesus out of it. And make sure that if there is something that we can do, then absolutely. One of the best sayings we ever had, there was our token Marine. We had one Marine in that whole group there, and he had said something, And he said something. Well, I don't think I could pay for that. Oh, I know what it was. His boy back home didn't have really any gear. I said, listen, Ray, give me your information. Let me know where you're at. Because
Yeah.
when I get home, I got some stuff and I'm going to put a little package together. And he's like, I really appreciate that, bro, but I don't think I could, I couldn't afford, blah, 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 this. And I'm like, Ray, you've already paid for this, partner. It just hasn't been delivered. Are you kidding me? I'm like, trust me. I was like, I got sponsors that are taking care of this. And regardless, what he didn't know is I literally had to go over to a local store here and get a few things because I didn't have everything I wanted to send him. But it's like, yeah, you're damn right we'll do that.
Awesome.
And that's, it started giving purpose, to be honest with you, Matt. It gave a bigger purpose. And I'm the kind of person that needs, gambling doesn't float my boat. I have zero like desire to go to Vegas or Black Hawk or
Yeah.
whatever, dude. That's just like a petri dish of bugs, man. I have nothing. And our sport is kind of gambling in a way. We
Yeah.
pay money in and we're trying to win our money back along with somebody else's money. So that never drove me. And I've been fishing long enough to know that no matter how hard I try and all the things I do, sometimes Mother Nature will just kick you right in the chin and go, yeah, it doesn't matter what you do. I'm going to have my way.
Yeah.
So I couldn't, there had to be a bigger piece to this. So what that weekend did for me, to save from turning this into a 2-hour story, what that weekend did for me is it showed me a possibility of what we could do. And what we could do was we could use the platform from our fishing, use the support from our sponsors and from tournament angling to raise awareness to this mission, to raise awareness of the benefits that getting outdoors, specifically fishing, can bring a section of our communities that absolutely more than deserve, to have that opportunity, and their families. And if we can deliver that, around the country, then yeah, that's exactly what we were going to do with it. The cool thing that I've learned over these past couple of years is just how many active military and veterans are in the sport already. Good
Yeah.
Lord, you guys are everywhere, man. And it's like, you see, it is not by just happenstance that occurred. And so if we can get more involved, not necessarily tournament fishing, it'd be cool if they did, but at the very least, get their butt in a kayak, get them out on the water, doing it the right way. And, just give them that, give them that area that they can go to where they can find that clarity, find that peace of mind, man. That's a huge thing. And then find others just like them, that do the same thing. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Community. Yeah, exactly. Because it's one thing I run into a lot of guys, at work that are like, hey, it, because I go fishing all the time. They see it and they're like, hey, man, like, what do I need to get into this? And I'm like, look, you don't need a pro angler. You don't need a, you know, whatever. You can just get out there. Like, we'll just go. And there are some waters here that the wind, can really get to you. But you know, there are some places that you could just go. You can even go from the shore. But
Right.
I say, like, just spend a day out there fishing. Especially like, even if it's not bass fishing, just go up to like South Park somewhere, and
Right.
some of these places where you've got I've had like elk bugling while I was fishing in the morning, and
Oh man.
it's just amazing. And I was like the only one on the water, and that was like one of the coolest days out here in Colorado for me. But
Too cool.
yeah, it's as you're talking about, with guys or gals that use this as kind of a coping mechanism, a hobby or a sense of community, whatever that is, right? Um, it sucks when people don't have that, and as you have
Yeah.
pointed out to opioids. I told you in the last show we did, the first funeral I did for a Green Beret wasn't for combat. It was he was medically retired from wounds in combat, but they were just shoving him full of pills, and he ended up taking his life. And about every year we just I get a phone call about it every year now. And
Yeah.
I texted you a couple weeks ago, or we were trying to get the show on a little bit earlier. And I texted you. I was like, "Hey, Gene, we got to do this." I got another call, and it's like,
Damn it.
And it's just it's so important for people to know, there's stress in the world, things, life happens, and
Right.
sometimes things happen aren't fair, or we can't make sense of it. We don't understand it. But man, if you already have something like this, and it doesn't have to be fishing, but like if you've already got your outlet, you're set up so much better. And if your outlet also has a community tied to it, you're set up so much better to handle that. Because sometimes there's things you can't handle by yourself, and you might just need somebody to reach out to. But that's why I love this type of thing, because it's not for the person that's maybe going through something and searching for a rescue. Like if I'm going through something personally, I'm probably at that point I'm focusing on how I'm going to solve that problem. But if I already have that outlet of the community, and I know what gives me peace, going out on the water, or it's like, hey, I just need to go try this out, and go get in nature for a little bit.
Yeah.
If you already have those habits, it just sets you up so much better.
Well, and I don't know, I don't have any scientific backing on this, and I'm going to actually look into this a lot more, just because it's been a section of the Romans Warrior Foundation that I've been really trying to support a lot heavier, and that's our Stop 22 tour. But what my gut tells me is that in a lot of these cases, when these warriors decide to move on, I'm wondering how much of that, what type of percentage of that is the factor of them just feeling alone, feeling like no one understands, because we as civilians can't, so if they don't have other veterans, if they don't have other outlets, people that they trust and that can speak a similar lingo and totally understand, it starts to get that, that those feelings of, I'm a problem now. I'm not part of the solution. I'm part of the problem, and I'm draining the people around me. And, they don't, it's that alone feeling, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. And one of the very first things I was taught by Staff Sergeant Justin Patterson, U.S. Army, was don't be that bucket guy. You be the conduit guy. Bucket guys, information and stuff comes to him and it lands in a bucket and it stays there with him. Be the conduit guy. So when information comes to you, you pipe it straight on, through. Yeah. So where I say I can't understand, what my objective is if I know a combat vet that I'm working with, I'm going to try to find another combat vet that I can start working with and then connect the two of them. Yeah. And start building those friendships, that brotherhood, that, The coolest thing, I've got a special place now, and I'm surrounded by lots of Marines everywhere I go. Brian Romans is a Marine, and of course I've just I've just been meeting more and more Marines, and there's such a common denominator amongst them is once they find out they're both Marines. I mean, that's it. That's all that matters, because there's so few of them. There is an instant connection immediately, and it's like, this is just super cool to watch it unfold like that. It's like, wow. Yeah. And so, if that becomes our, kind of our secondary mission behind the scenes, just make sure we're connecting these people. I'm trying to make sure that as we work with people, I keep like just a little personal spreadsheet, file of kind of, my assessment of the situation, where they're at, what their experiences were, because I want to put that together with some other, assistance, so that in the future I can start having that network of putting these folks together. We can really try to bridge that stuff up. Hopefully we get big enough, we can hold some bigger events, where we go to a place and we have a day where we put 10, 15 kayaks out there and we have a mini tournament just for those guys, let them duke it out there. That would be super cool.
Yeah. So I guess for people that don't know, with True Patriot Outfitters, what does it look like on the practical level of, the kayaks and taking guys out?
So currently right now we have 3 kayaks that we have, and they're all the New Canoe Unlimiteds. 2 of them motor driven, 1 of them pedal drive. The pedal drive, I've got a new one on its way right now, a pedal drive coming. So we'll have 1 of them that actually will have a pedal drive unit in it. And so we have those 3. The cool thing about our kayak community is it's so freaking amazing that if I do get more than 2 people at a time that want to go out, and I find that my span of control can be okay with that, then it's easy to find other people with kayaks and to chip in and help out with that. Yeah. So basically what we try to do is we connect with a veteran, first responder, or their families, Gold, Blue Star, doesn't matter. We connect with them. We identify a time and kind of an idea of, where they've been, what their experience is. I can give you the best example. The most recent one we just did was with a U.S. Navy veteran. And how I found him was pretty awesome. I went to the eye doctor and I was getting these glasses, and the guy across the table, we're sitting here talking, and I told him, about my trying to tie knots. That was the thing with fluorocarbon. I couldn't see and I needed something to help. Well, that was the guy, because he's like, "You fish?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I fish a lot. That's kind of like half my job." As we got to talking, I explained to him kind of what I did, and he's like, "Hey, man, I was in the U.S. Navy." I'm like, "You were? Well, then we need to go fishing."
Yeah.
And it was a couple weeks, because mind you, that was probably early March, late February. So it was still a little too cold for that. So we literally, the first ice off that we had, April 8th, took this guy out and put him on a New Canoe Unlimited. And we went with help of Terry Dorr, and he lives on a lake that's a private lake. So Terry facilitated in his new canoe that he purchased from us, facilitated getting us on the water. So the 3 of us met that morning. We went out and put Dan on his first. So he had never fished for bass and he had never been in a kayak. We got him his first 2 bass in back-to-back casts off of a white chatterbait. Dude, it was in. What made me feel even better was I almost Babe Ruthed it, dude, because we're sitting here and we start with, I get him a wacky rig and we start pitching a dock, and I get him going on that. Well, while he's doing that, I'm like, I'm swim baits. Okay. That's all. I love swim baits. This is a private lake. I'll bet you these fish have not seen a swim bait.
That's right.
So I grab a big old gnarly swim bait and I start winging it out. And I'm kind of shadowing him. I'm talking to him and helping him, where to pitch it, where to flip it, giving him some tips and pointers, watching him in the kayak, make sure he's safe. And I throw over and I'm looking over at this rocky shoreline, and I'm like, bro, I gotta throw in there. I gotta get up on that. And so I just kind of pull in front of Dan a little bit, and I'm like, just keep working through those docks there. You want to get it right next to that and just underneath. So I throw up and doink, I hook into one. And I'm like, hey, look at that. And this water's stupid clean. So as I'm drifting, I get rid of, do a little cheesing with the fish, send him back. I throw parallel to the shore. I watch Dumb and Dumber following my swim bait back. It's like of Mice and Men, dude. There's Lenny there. There's the big one, and then the little one, sitting right next to him, George. Well, George bites it, and I'm like, no. So I get these things in, and I'm sitting here, and I got a little snare in my bait caster, so I sling it away from shore, let it go out there. I pull out some stuff, and as I'm reeling back, I feel rocks. So I got the all-terrain tackle Smalley Smasher. It's a super sensitive swim jig head. And so I know what dirt feels like. I know and I'm feeling rocks out there. And I'm like, hey, Terry, you know about a rock spine out here? And he goes, nope. I'm like, huh. So I kick live scope on and I'm like, bro. So I called Dan over to me and I'm like, Dan, and I was like, let me see that, hold that wacky rig over here to me. So he hands me and I'm like, open the bail. Well, he pulls it and I grab my snips and I snip and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, hang on. And I reach down and the first thing I find that's a moving bait is a white chatterbait. So I grab it. It's already got a trailer on it because it's one that's just sitting in my deal. So I tie him up. I'm like, throw it right out there, just as far as you can, and then just medium retrieve it back. He does the first time, and he's like, it almost feels like there's something on there. I was like, no, that's just the blade. I was watching his tip. It's just ding, 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 ding. Because he's throwing this on an egg beater, man. So it's a real sensitive pole.
Oh,
so his second cast, doink, he hooks in. He gets this thing in, and you can just grinning from ear to ear, man. It's just his first bass. We get all kinds of video and pictures. Terry comes over and kind of helps him because the poor guy looked just like me. He's got a net and he's got his fishing pole and he's trying to manage this stuff.
Yeah.
He gets it all done, slings out there again, doink, the very next cast. And he's just like, dude, is this what it's always like? It's like, no. It's not always this easy. I was like, but, I was like, we paid attention. We saw what we saw. And and so he ended up at the end of the day, we got out there. I don't know. We got a little bit of a late start that day because it was kind of cold still. So we knew we didn't have to get out there stupid early, but we fished, I want to say up until maybe 1 or 2. And then there's a restaurant right on the lake. So we took him over there and we had lunch together, the three of us. And we talked to Dan about his time, his service, his family, his kids, got to know him, as a person and became friends, and just to fully understand this, we docked right there with our kayaks. So we all get back in the kayaks and he's driving around, and here's a little plug for New Canoe. Cause I got to tell you, he's like, these things are just so dang fun to drive around in. I wouldn't care if we went fishing at all. I could just cruise around in this thing. And I'm like, yeah, man, it is, it is true though. Cause he's got I always put the new folks in the one with the Newport motor on it. Cause it's so easy to learn. We got foot steering in the unlimited. It's just 1 foot, just like a trolling motor, and you got a throttle, it's a walk in the park. It's a small learning curve, and they're super stable, and so he had a blast. That's what we want those trips to be. In reverse of that, Father's Day weekend, I'm heading back to Red Willow because we have maybe one of the biggest things, but I've got 2 donations came in the last 45 days that have made this possible now. And we're taking an Air Force veteran, his wife, and 3 boys on Father's Day weekend to Red Willow. The only way I have enough kayaks to do this is because of Team Muse. Dustin and Jennifer Muse who live 10 miles from the lake.
Okay.
Are donating 3 additional kayaks so that I have 6 total kayaks. And it looks like, I don't want to speak for them, but it looks like they're going to join us. Because, like I told him, I've been FEMA certified with span of control here. 6 kayakers, trying to watch all of them.
Yeah.
No bueno, man. So I need some help out there. And it looks like I'm going to have 2 of the best possible people. This is their home water, man.
Gosh.
And they're such a power fishing couple. So yeah, man, that's going to be this event. The TPO is going to pick up, they've got their own camper, so that helps. Okay. But the TPO is going to pick up the cost of their campsites and everything, so we can set them up there. I'm going to get there early to make sure we can reserve it, and actually Dustin might go do that for me that week. And then we're going to take them out to dinner. We're going to load them up. Because of Shields and their generosity, we're going to load them all up with a Shields Outfitters combo. Nice. We're going to talk to a few more of my sponsors, see if we can load them up with some more gear there, and just make it a memory. Because I have a feeling we might be able to get them on. If the weather cooperates, we might be able to put them on. There's big fish in that water, dude. And so I have a feeling this could be a memorable deal. I'm crossing my fingers that the weather plays nice and we don't get blown off the lake.
That's awesome.
So
Father's Day to remember for sure. That's
cool.
And
so, after that, we have another one booked in August where we have a combat veteran, and he was so funny. He comes to me and says, "You say I could bring somebody with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Who you want to bring? Name it. I've got enough. I've got 3 kayaks." And he goes, "Could we bring my dad?" I'm like, "Bro, I would be honored. Is your dad going to be cool with getting a kayak?" He goes, "We might need to get him in there, you and me together, but," he goes, "they're pretty stable, right?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah. Once we get him in, he'll be good."
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're going to take this guy out, and we don't know where we're going yet. It's in August. We're still trying to piece that together. Each trip is very unique. You know, I want to make sure that it's comfortable, easy for them to get to it. We can afford to, because I don't want this to cost them a dime, other than the only thing I do, the TPO does not pick up is cost of fishing license. It's and that's done up for a reason. I want them to have a vested interest in this.
Yeah.
You know, I want them to, yes, they're buying their day or their annual whatever because they want to go. You know, it's that little extra piece that they take ownership of that. Then we'll spoil them with all kinds of other stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's cool. I mean, we talked. I mean, gosh, what was it? January? I think it was like right after New Year's when we were talking, and to see your sponsorships growing like crazy. It looks like this year. So, dude, you're taking off like crazy. So, good job, man. I mean, that obviously doesn't come from just people giving you stuff. That means you're grinding out and working your butt off. So,
it's the podcast. I will say it's the I believe in professional representation, and it's the podcast. Our TPO podcast has as you know, yep. I mean, these things are the deal, man. It people watch them, they listen to them, and that's why we committed to that, because it gives us a platform to talk fishing, talk nonprofit, talk fishing, talk nonprofit, you know, and bring those worlds together, you know, super close.
Yeah. All right. Well, to change gears just a little bit, let's talk about kind of the podcast side of things that you do. So, yeah, YouTube channel, True Patriot Outfitters, right? And that's where that's at. But you're also involved with All American now.
Yeah.
You won, what was it, the Sportsman Award for the year?
For 2022, they named me the Sportsman of the Year for 2022. And dude, I got to tell you, probably the most surprised person in that room at that award ceremony was me, because as Tyler's talking up there on the stage about all the criteria, I'm going to tell you this straight up in my head. Swear this on my kid's name. When they're saying this, I'm like, Marty Hughes. That's what's going in my head. I'm like, it's got to be Marty. I mean, as much as he's contributed to our sport, you know, and he continues to stay, you know, entering into the All-American stuff and supporting that, which is awesome. When an OG, you know, we can pull in an OG like that. You know, so I'm sitting here and I'm like, Marty. And he says my name and I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
You know, it was, I'm not going to lie though, one of the better moments I've ever had in fishing, is getting that little award like that, man. It means the world, because the results have not been there. You know what I mean? It's like, got a third place last year at Lewis and Clark. Season was pretty much over, so I couldn't really build on that momentum, you know?
Yep.
And so it was like, you know, trying to find that it had been a struggle. So, I believe in the All-American Kayak Series. I believe in what Joshua Booth and Tyler Cole have built there. They want to take care of anglers first. That is their deal. Joshua Booth has been to the highest mountain in our sport. He's competed at the highest levels. And lo and behold, he's a Marine. You know, and I had the guy on the podcast, and that's when I found out that he was. I'm like, I'm a horrible podcast host. How did I not know this about him?
Yeah.
So he asked us if we would be willing to become like the official podcast for them. And shortly after saying yes, absolutely, we'd be honored, because it just gives the TPO a bigger platform, bigger audience.
Yeah.
I now realize that we will continue to produce it, but Josh and I have already been talking about, we're going to spin this into its own named podcast for the All-American. I'll host it, and hopefully I'll get some co-hosts, you know, to come along with that, because, you know, there's a lot, as you know, brother, it's a heck of a commitment, man. If you want to run a successful podcast, you have to be dropping content every freaking week about the same time, and you cannot slip. You know, if you slip, it's kind of like you got to restart again, you know, and try to find that viewership. So yeah, man. And I want this to be successful for them. So It's like I said, TPO will still stay attached to it. Our logo will still be there, but we'll name it. We'll maybe throw it out to the membership of the AA, KS, and let them kind of come up with, help us come up with a name to this thing. Yeah. And then, that could be, to be honest with you, that might become just the fishing platform. And then let the TPO start branching into more veteran service type related stuff, veteran community stuff. You know what I mean? That's kind of where my vision is. None of this stuff, I wish I could say there's a grandmaster plan, brother, but it's been a matter of just go where it takes you.
That's awesome.
That's kind of where Brian Romans taught me that from the very beginning, that just follow it. Just stay after it, keep following it, and let it kind of, aim its course for you. So we'll try it. We'll keep going that direction. But for right now, TPO right here, Colorado, we changed our logo and everything, man, to be just right here. This was the original one.
Oh, yeah.
It was the red, white, and blue. And then you see the one behind us. I incorporated the Colorado Sea in there to just emphasize the fact that we are Colorado based. This is, there is a large number of veteran and active military, you guys, that are in this state. And we want to make sure that they know there's lots of us out here, hanging around, waiting to go fishing with them.
Absolutely. I love that we're able to work together this year through having you guys as our our partner this year. I just love it because what you're doing out there on a daily grind of going out and making this happen on I love that it's so personal and intentional. It's not just give me a group of 20 people and let me just do this because I am doing it. You know what I mean? Like, it's very personal and it's very relational. I love that about it. It reminds me, there's a lot of guys in the club that will not even speak up about, how they're donating. Trev Stuckey's, Trev's one of those guys that, just donates all the time for different charities. The first tournament I think I fished at Pueblo, I think he won like second or third. And he was like, just give it back to, the charity or whatever. I was like, who is this guy, But there's people like that everywhere. And I'm not saying like it's all monetary, it could be, a kid's new to fishing and someone, hey man, here's some baits I'm using to catch fish. Or, I saw dad and his kid out on a boat at Pueblo at the end of our tournament. I was, they're fishing in like 60 feet, and I was like, hey man, you guys having any luck, and he's like, no, my son just wants to catch a fish. And I was catching him on like a real specific, like skirted Ned. And I was like, hey man, here's 3 of these. I tied one up for him. I was like, follow me. So like he followed me in his boat. I'm paddling over the kayak. The tournament was over. It just ended.
Right.
And I was like, hey man, this is a flat right here. Stay between this buoy and this buoy. And they started casting out, catching fish. And but it's awesome to see.
It feels good, right?
It does, like he got to have that with his son that maybe he wouldn't have been able to have that experience. Maybe they would have been like, all right, fishing sucks,
This lake sucks.
Yeah, this place sucks. But yeah, the hammer over there. But there's Alex is another dude, there are so many guys in this community, like you're saying, that would just give you, the shirt off their back. And I love that you're doing this so intentionally. It just blends so well with why the club got founded in the first place. It's we have fishing tournaments. That's part of it. But really, the big thing is to make a difference.
One of the things that I noticed about the CKFC that I love so much about it is one of the big struggles that I had when I coached. When I coached football, I coached from 4th grade all the way to seniors in high school. I was with the Century High School Panthers and had an opportunity to work on John Vick's staff there. And one of the hard things is that football was my medium that I used to teach life lessons to these young men. that is the same thing that I see with CKFC has the tournaments that kind of help become the fundraising and the community building and the camaraderie and the tight knit, aspects come together for a bigger purpose that the club represents. And I found like a kinship in that when I first saw that. That is super, super cool. And you'll notice that's kind of what the TPO still, it's why I still tournament fish. Now, I will say this flat out, tournament fishing is not cheap, especially when you fish national trails. Yeah. Lodging and gas is expensive. And so, it's very important that folks understand that all lodging, all gas, all my expenses on tournament comes right from my wife and I. The TPO does not cover a single dime of any of that. That is not anticipated. The only time that I could ever see TPO that would be interested in looking at, say, some travel expense is if we're going to a specific location to do a specific event and, fundraising's involved, or we're connecting with a VFW, right, or something like that. Then it starts to become there. Roman's Warrior Foundation is our title sponsor throughout the deal. They're the ones that supplied the kayaks when this thing first got rolling. TPO is basically now purchasing the kayaks from Romans, but at the same time, Romans will still find ways to. That's why their logo's right on my jersey, right out the gates. And when I drive around the country, I try to leave my cards at local places, seeing if we can find a place to get our mobile memorial in. Yeah. But it's one of the things we're doing next year is I am drawing back, and we're going to refocus so that. Where we go will be directly related to less about my fishing desires and more specifically about where we can have the biggest impact. Where's a high percentage chance that we're going to be able to get an event or get, say, a strategic partner in this given area that wants to work with us to provide some services. So, yeah, we're going to be real. It'll more than likely, like I said, we're not going to probably fish any of the bass stuff, no Hobies, no KBF. Our national trail will be that of the All-American and then our local stuff here. And if I can iron out and figure out a situation with this stupid pedal drives, I'm going to jump in some CKFC stuff, and get out there. But I people know me, they know I find nothing about that enjoyable. Pedaling and fishing. There's just too much crap going on. I don't know how you guys do it. I mean, I think in smack my and hush my mouth as a member of the Team New Canoe fishing team, but I understand how you Hobie guys get away with it. Okay, your Hobie system is a different critter, but dude, the pedal system thing like that, yeah. I got knees everywhere. Yeah.
Man, I listened to a really. Did you listen to Bass and Beers podcast?
I've seen it. I have not had a chance to pick that up yet.
They had a show this past week, and they kind of got to talking about how the rules changed, for portaging and basically fishing skinny water for guys that'll. And the argument is, with the rule changes that, hey, when they took the ability, when they changed the rules where, hey, you can't fish this deep into the creeks. And they didn't do it with boundaries. It was basically, you can't, if you can't get back there, without getting out of your kayak, you can't go there. But what the argument was that they were making, and I think it was actually a pretty good argument, whether you agree with it or not, the argument was good. And that was that the paddle kayaker has been removed from tournament fishing, and it's not by life scope, it's not by motors, it's by rules that said that they had an unfair advantage, which is hilarious,
right?
When you have a guy with a $20,000 kayak, fishing offshore, and I just look at it this way: if there are different techniques, and if you choose to go with these different tactics or techniques, if I wanted to go fish shallow water with my kayak, the way that I have it rigged out, I wouldn't be able to. I'd have to get something else that I could get into that water. But those guys can't do some of the things that I can do with my kayak in the deeper water. They're going to get blown all over the place, So it was a good argument. It was a good show. But that
is an interesting thing, the irony in that that well, what's his name? Why did I just lock up the guy Drew?
Drew Gregory.
Yeah, Drew. I mean, that dude is like the king of it, type thing. But it's yeah, that's he finds water that no one knows about, type thing that he can get into. But yeah, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, so that was cool. Well, hey, let's talk about the Stanley event.
Yeah.
We got coming up.
So June 24th, Saturday, it's going to be a meet and greet down there. The objective was to put we did this last year with not a lot of build up. We kind of did it on the last minute type thing. And we still actually had a pretty decent turnout show up there. Plus there's a lot of people that were just visiting Stanley and they see the kayaks, they see our banner set up and they want to come by and talk with us. And we let people take the unlimited out, and kind of buzz it around real quick and just kind of see. I'm pretty sure we got some people, with the bug, they want to go get kayaks now later. But what I wanted this year was a meet and greet, and I wanted it to be just partners and friends of Stanley Lake. Stanley Lake is drinking water for 3 municipalities: Westminster, Thornton, and North Glen. And it used to be a while ago, several years ago, it used to allow recreational boating on it. COVID kicked in, an invasive species of weed showed up in that drinking water reservoir, and the city council, I believe it was, put a ban on trailered vessels. All they would allow are hand launch. Well, that ban has never been lifted. And there's an intergovernmental agreement, and thank goodness, well done Thornton, well done North Glen, for not allowing this. There's one of those that wants trailered boats back on there because they're getting some pressure from some of the locals that are in that area that want to bring their boats back out there again. Yeah. And I even went to Westminster City Council and pleaded with them to not do this because there's just not a lot of places out there that allow just hand launch only. And there's many, many options that trailered boats have. We use Stanley Lake. We made a partnership with them because it's a great place. I don't worry about wake. I don't worry about anything. And there's actually some decent fishing in there. And it's a super easy sandy beach launch that you can drive right up to, drop the kayak on the beach, go park your vehicle, and then you're right there, man. It's a walk in the park, literally. And so what I wanted for the 24th was to do a meet and greet with the CKFC, True Patriot Outfitters, and then a joint partner in this is called Peak Rowing. Peak Rowing is a rowing organization and club, but they also have a section of monies that's been afforded to them that they use to provide rowing lessons to veterans and first responders at no cost. So they want to get them, involved in this. They use Stanley Lake as well for this. If there were boat traffic there, they, like us, would probably have to leave because it just wouldn't be safe. But yeah, so it's a super cool, setup. I thought with these three organizations, people, can understand. We can help build a community of why we need to protect Stanley to a solid degree to keep it hand launch only, type thing. But really the ultimate goal, that was the interest that Stanley Lake had in it. You know what I mean? That was how we were scratching backs. Ultimately, I want people to come see the True Patriot Outfitters, see us firsthand, give our volunteers a chance to show up there, meet the Colorado Kayak Fishing Club, let them see how we're working together, introduce the club. It's a great way, for the club to be able to get exposure to more people there, to pick up new members, and Peak Rowing as well, just to have that same camaraderie there, all of us loving the outdoors, loving being on the water. So it should be a very cool time. I don't know to what degree yet, as far as, I don't, I'm going to try to make sure we can get some swag to give away to, certain folks and such, but it's more, really, I've been focused really on this Father's Day weekend thing, trying to make all these moving parts come together. I know if I make a few phone calls to the sponsors, they're going to jump on it and they're going to want to do some stuff, we can give away some hats, some t-shirts, things like that. Yeah. But I think what's most important is that people come out there, learn about the program, learn about the clubs, see what we're doing, and then have an opportunity to see if they want to join us in these missions, man.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity too. It's so Stanley Lake. It's in the metro area, right?
Yeah, Westminster. Yep, so, Westminster.
So yeah, anyone that's in the club or not watching the show, if you're interested in it, the 24th, 8 to 3.
Yep.
Actually, got a little ticker I'll throw on down here on the bottom for it. But
Nice.
yeah, come on out. We'll be out there. I know myself will be there. I think Scott Brands is going to be out there,
That's awesome.
and I'm probably going to bring the family with. Just
Lots to do.
make a day out of it and have a good time. So definitely come on out and I mean support the cause, and then also just get a little more information about what's out there. These are uh, these are organizations that are really making a difference that we're working with, and it's good to get out there and see it firsthand.
It helps put the some the tangible pieces together. When folks can see what it is that we're offering, what we're bringing to the table, what we're trying to do, and then the more we get a chance to talk to people in the community, that's such a major thing. One major deal at the end of each year, Shields, who is a huge supporter of ours, they do a big community giveaway at the end of each year where they take 20 nonprofit organizations and they donate $5,000 to each one of them. They do this by a voting mechanism that they launch online. And for us, one of the biggest keys that we want to make sure of is that we can secure that by getting enough people in the community to be aware of us, that we're out there, so we can, when that time does come, they can make those votes, because it's going to take the grassroots effort of just getting out there. It's one of the reasons why we're slated to start working like in front of King Soopers. We're going to go set our fruit stand up there. I'm going to try to get the truck parked as close I can to the front with a kayak in it. And we're going to stand there talking to folks that are going in and out of King Soopers and see if we can just, make them aware of what we're doing and what we're out here for. So, it's, you gotta beat the streets, man. That's, whatever it takes.
Yeah, you're grinding. I know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how you do it, man. This doing the this show, like just this, uh, you know, having a full time job, it's a lot just to do these. So I cannot imagine going out, traveling for all the tournaments, fishing, going out, doing all these things where you're taking guys out. It's a lot of work, man. So I just want people to understand, like, hey, this isn't like, hey, I'm a free time, I'm gonna get on here, and like, this is a job. You're grinding it out. So good
You know,
job, man. Like, you've
well,
really built something, especially in the limited time that True Patriot Outfitters has been here. Uh, you've you've done a hell of a job, dude.
it's, I appreciate every one of the kind words and the support on that, brother. And there's something I learned a long time ago. I hit 50 last year, and so I got a little bit of wisdom. And what I learned a long time ago is just because you're busy doesn't mean you're stressed. I like staying busy, but at the same note, there's nothing about what I do that is, I would say, equates to stressful work. Is it challenging? Does it make you want to pull your hair out sometimes? And do you invent some cuss words when stuff happens? Yes. But in the big scheme of things, I mean, for the love of Pete, dude, look what I get to do for a job. You know what I mean? It's like, how I can't be that hypocritical and complain about it. It's challenging. Half the time, it just makes me feel stupid. That I didn't think of this, or I didn't look ahead enough. But yeah, it's the people, though. Like you said, we started with that. It's guys like you. It's guys like Alex. It's guys like Scott. It's the people in our community that have made the TPO, successful to this part. And I know, like you said, we're just getting started, man.
Yeah.
We've got some really cool things on the horizon, and we're gonna follow it. We're gonna, to keep our chin in the pocket, keep swinging, and
Yeah.
see what happens and what comes out of it. So but it's a lot of support. It's a lot of people. I'm just the fat head that goes on the screen, every now and again.
Well, no, you're not a stranger to anybody here in Colorado. I mean, you're all over, all the CKB, you just took third at was it
Yeah.
third at
Yes, sir.
Red Willow? Congrats, man, getting one of the shields. That's awesome.
Tell you that
Uh,
that felt good, man. I needed that. We had
yeah,
our results had been in the dumpster for quite a while, so yeah, having a good showing there, and especially I wasn't sure how it was going to hold up. I was like, somebody's got to be sandbagging. Yeah, he wasn't sandbagging, but I knew Trev was coming, man.
always,
Yeah,
always.
yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you're not a stranger to anybody in Colorado. Kind of the voice of Colorado kayak fishing with the podcast that's going on, and then as we go into the All American for the Classic every year, looking forward to just seeing you more and more involved with that. So it's really
that's awesome.
cool. And then also, clearly with the with True Patriot Outfitters and what you're doing,
Yes,
we're
sir.
excited to work with you. So yeah, thanks for coming on. I do want to talk about Trinidad real quick as it's this weekend. So Saturday we've got our bass tournament up at Trinidad. And then our multi-species tournament is on Sunday. You've got until the night before at 8 p.m. to get registered for that. We're doing a couple really cool giveaways this year at some of these events. So at Trinidad, I think Scott's our brand or I what do you call it?
Sponsor manager.
Sponsor manager. There you go. We're giving away a Black Pack Pro from Yak Attack.
Dang,
Yeah. So
I love mine.
we're giving a bunch of stuff away. That's one of the bigger ones, but there's a lot of giveaways. If you're on the fence about joining, definitely do it. I fished down there last weekend. The bite's on pretty good right now. They're a little bit behind the rest of Colorado. I don't know if it's been a little bit cooler there, but it seems like they're, right behind Pueblo, where it was really hot a few weeks ago at Pueblo. It's probably
Yeah.
going to be pretty good down there. So looking forward to that. And yeah, that'll be Saturday for bass and then Sunday for multi. So that's all I got. Hey, Gene, how do people get a hold of you and what's the best way to find you?
All socials our handles are at True Patriot Outfitters. Website, you can hit us at truepatriotoutfitters.org. We are there. Also, the email that you can hit is at truepatriotoutfitters@gmail.com. If you know me, on Facebook, reach out, friend me, whatever, hit me there too. And I can get you, connected up. We are absolutely needing volunteers. Right now, for sure, we need some help. One of the major assets that we're looking for is more access to private waters, where we can take these. Because, like you said, we try to keep this intimate. We try to keep it one-on-one. I don't want a bunch of rec boaters around my guys and gals.
Yeah.
I want them to have the experience of just getting out there. So, private water access, that's a big thing for us. And then, of course, the big one that I'm still on the hunt for is looking for a Warriors liaison, somebody that can be actively searching for candidates for us to take out. I have so many hats that I have to wear. I don't want it to be hinged on me. I don't want to be the choke point on this. So yeah, we're always looking, and of course, just people to go out fishing with, man. Because when I do get multiple people, more than two, I'd like to have another volunteer with me. So let's do it. Let's take these folks out. So, but yeah, hit us up, email, socials, anywhere.
Awesome. Yeah, you heard it. Hey, if you are listening to the show, you're a veteran, first responder, and this is something that's interesting to you,
Let's
hit
go.
us up, hit Gene up, or you can always hit us up here too, and we'll link you in. But yeah, don't be shy. Get in there. Gene doesn't bite. You'll have a great time. And if anybody ever wants to go fishing, just give us a call or and hit us up here, and we'll make it happen. So.
Nice.
But thanks so much for your time, Gene. Thanks for all that you guys are doing.
Thank you, man.
I love that you thanks your wife for her support too.
None of it happens without her, man. She's the boss.
That's right.
She's the anchor. She's the anchor.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, hey, great chatting with you. And yeah, we'll see you up at Stanley here pretty soon.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you guys so very much.